heart of New York, streets once alive with dreams now carry the weight of those left behind. Each night, more than 100,000 people search for shelter, not in the warmth of a home, but in the shadows of a city that claims to offer opportunity for all. Families, veterans, and everyday dreamers press on through the cold, their stories hidden beneath the city's towering skyline. This is today's America, an inequality we can't afford to ignore. As the crisis grows, it forces us to ask, how long can we celebrate freedom while so many have no place to call home? Hit like, leave a comment, and share this video, because this story matters too much to stay silent. New York still buzzes with energy, but behind the glow of its streets lies a hard truth. Once seen as a symbol of hope and opportunity, the city now faces more than 100,000 people looking for shelter every single night. That number is more than double what it was in 2010. And it's not just about tough luck or short-term struggles. This is a crisis fueled by a housing shortage that continues to pull entire families into its grip. Today, families make up 69% of those in shelters, including nearly 36,000 children, kids who wake up not to breakfast at home, but to another day filled with uncertainty. The burden of this crisis falls heaviest on Black and Hispanic communities, who make up most of the people in shelters. The roots run deep. Centuries of systemic barriers have shaped the inequalities we see today. Rents have skyrocketed, rising 20% since 2020, pushing families and individuals further out of reach, with the average apartment now costing around $3,500 a month. Meanwhile, wages have barely budged, leaving many renters spending more than half their income just to keep a roof over their heads. Alongside the mounting housing crisis, New York has become a destination for thousands of asylum seekers. In July alone, over 35,000 asylum seekers ended up in shelters, making up a large share of the city's shelter population. Fleeing violence and hardship in their home countries, these individuals now face a new struggle, navigating a city system stretched to its limits.
A lot of shelters are full, or either they're not full, everybody they're doing drugs, and it just seems like it's no help. I'd rather have a job.
Despite the overwhelming challenges, stories of resilience still shine through. A mother in Queens, facing the threat of eviction, struggles to hold her family together. A veteran under the Williamsburg Bridge, whose service medals are now replaced by a cardboard sign.
Well, I've been out here about 2 years, man, and I tried the shelter system here. I got into numerous fights trying to protect my gear, people stealing, robbing me. The homeless situation here in New York is atrocious.
These people, once part of the city's heartbeat, now live on the margins, fighting to survive in a place that promises so much but gives so little to those who fall through the cracks. Looking at this reality, it begs the question, if New York, the city of dreams, can't care for its most vulnerable, what does that say about the promise of opportunity America claims to offer? This crisis isn't just a local problem, it's a national one, and it demands our attention. By mid-2025, New York's homeless population had soared past 158,000, representing a large share of the nation's total. The city's rate of homelessness has climbed sharply, far outpacing the national average. While many turn to overcrowded shelters, countless others are forced to sleep on the streets, in parks, or even in subway stations. Nearly half of those affected are families, including more than 146,000 children whose education and sense of stability are disrupted by the uncertainty of their living conditions. This crisis has been building for years. After the 2008 recession, homelessness in New York hovered around 39,000. By 2015, that number had grown to 60,000 as affordable housing became harder to find. The pandemic made things even worse, pushing the total past 84,000 by 2023. Now, in 2025, homelessness has reached levels not seen since the Great Depression, with 158,000 people living without stable housing. Behind each of these numbers are real lives: families facing eviction, workers losing jobs, and people trapped by medical debt in endless cycles of poverty. Rising rents and stagnant wages are forcing more people into homelessness, while thousands of asylum seekers add to the growing strain. The people behind these numbers are more than statistics. Many are immigrants fleeing violence or poverty, while others face mental illness or addiction. A large share of non-family households are made up of disabled individuals whose needs go unmet in a system stretched far too thin. At the center of this crisis are children, nearly 36,000, whose futures are clouded by constant instability and disruption. It begs a pressing question. Why is this happening when the economy is supposedly on the rise? The answer lies in systemic failures, deregulation, and a safety net that no longer supports those who need it most. New York's growing homelessness reflects a national problem that demands urgent attention. Only by tackling these root causes can we hope to reverse the trend and rebuild the support systems so desperately needed. In the dim streets of New York, a deadly threat lurks, often unseen. Fentanyl, a powerful synthetic opioid, is devastating the homeless population, taking lives at an alarming rate. Up to 100 times stronger than morphine, fentanyl has become a silent killer for those already at their lowest, turning every moment into a risk. In 2023, fentanyl was linked to nearly 80% of the city's overdose deaths. Though the number dipped slightly in 2024, the drug still drives most overdose cases, especially among the homeless. Numbers tell part of the story, but not the full suffering. About 65% of homeless individuals report using illicit drugs regularly, often unknowingly encountering fentanyl in counterfeit pills or street drugs. For those living on the edge, fentanyl's grip is even tighter, worsened by limited access to treatment or life-saving resources like naloxone, the overdose reversal drug. Many also face stigma and barriers that prevent them from seeking help. Overdose deaths rose 3.2%, paralleling the rise in homelessness and revealing a deep connection between the two crises. The Bronx and central Brooklyn are particularly hard hit, where fentanyl continues to take lives in shelters and on the streets. While overall overdoses dropped slightly in 2024, the danger remains severe, especially for young people in shelters. Opioid addiction among adolescents has soared 168% from 2018 to 2022. In one heartbreaking case, a 4-year-old in a Brooklyn shelter was exposed to fentanyl, showing just how widespread its impact has become. Why is fentanyl so deadly for the homeless? Isolation plays a major role. Many have no access to recovery services, harm reduction tools, or the social support that could save their lives. As fentanyl spreads, the city's response remains insufficient. This is more than a health issue, it's a humanitarian crisis that affects the most vulnerable among us. To address it, we must recognize the link between addiction and homelessness, invest in treatment and prevention, and act swiftly before more lives are lost in the shadows. In 2025, New York's homelessness crisis has become a perfect storm, a crushing mix of economic pressure, social struggles, and systemic failures. At the heart of it is the housing crisis. With median rents soaring to $3,500 and a severe lack of affordable housing, countless families are pushed to the edge. Since 2016, evictions have skyrocketed, and inflation paired with stagnant wages has left thousands without stable homes. Families, especially those with children, are trapped in overcrowded apartments or forced into shelters. The storm is worsened by social challenges. About 30% of homeless individuals struggle with mental health or addiction, yet only a small number receive the help they desperately need. Job losses, unsafe living conditions, and failing safety nets all add to the rise in homelessness. New arrivals, many fleeing economic hardship from other parts of the country or abroad, place even more strain on New York's already stretched resources. Since 2022, over 50,000 people have entered the shelter system, many finding only temporary housing and no true stability, while support services remain stretched thin, unable to meet growing needs. The root problem is a system that fails to prioritize those in need. Cuts to federal housing programs and insufficient support for migrants and low-income communities have made matters worse. Meanwhile, the city's wealthiest neighborhoods continue to thrive, while those at the bottom fight just to survive. Black New Yorkers face eviction at 6 times the rate of others, and immigrants, particularly Latinos and Asians, face added barriers to finding housing. This isn't accidental. It's the result of policies that favor developers over families and profit over people, creating a widening gap between privilege and hardship. Yet amid this storm, there is hope. By tackling the root causes of homelessness and inequality, we can ease the pressures tearing lives apart and begin to rebuild the social fabric. Until then, the crisis serves as a harsh reminder of the choices society makes. As we face this challenge, we must ask, how can we build a future that lifts everyone up, not just the privileged few, and ensures that dignity and opportunity are available to all? New York's homelessness crisis goes beyond numbers. It leaves invisible scars on the very soul of the city. For those living on the streets, the toll is slow and relentless. Health declines rapidly from exposure, with infectious diseases rising 40% among the unsheltered. Chronic conditions like diabetes and heart disease go untreated, compounding suffering and shortening lives. Children bear the heaviest burden. Over 146,000 school-age kids experience homelessness in the past year. Their education is disrupted by constant moves from one shelter to another, driving dropout rates higher. 1 in 5 misses half the school year, not from lack of effort, but because of the instability they face. The city itself is strained. Street crime has risen 15% in areas with dense homeless populations, not out of malice, but out of desperation. Small thefts and conflicts stem from hunger and frustration. The healthcare system is overwhelmed, with emergency rooms flooded by preventable issues, costing billions that could address root causes instead. Tourism, a major part of the economy, has dropped 5%, with visitors citing the visible presence of homelessness as a concern. Economically, the city loses roughly $10 billion each year, as those affected struggle to hold jobs and productivity is lost to illness and instability. Spending on shelters has soared to $4 billion in 2025, diverting funds from other essential services like schools, public transportation, and community programs. Amid this, we see individuals like a veteran at Grand Central Station, once a protector of freedoms, now struggling to survive in the shadows of the city he served. His story isn't unique. It reflects a wider failure of systems meant to support, not abandon. These hidden scars remind us that homelessness doesn't just harm individuals, it wounds the entire city, eroding communities and fraying the social fabric. As New York's bright lights flicker, they cast long shadows, urging us to face this deepening crisis and confront the moral cost of letting such suffering continue and challenging us to act before more lives are lost to neglect. Amid the chaos, there are signs of progress, small but meaningful steps toward restoring stability. Mayor Adams' administration, despite its challenges, has made notable strides. By August 2025, over 3,500 unsheltered New Yorkers were moved from streets and subways into permanent housing, a significant achievement led by outreach teams under the Subway Safety Plan. Launched in 2022, the plan placed social workers in the transit system, helping more than 1,000 people find stable homes, turning nights of wandering into restful security. The city also invested $650 million to meet the immediate needs of the homeless. This funding added 900 new beds for runaway youth, 100 more spots for homeless young adults, and the Bridge to Home initiative, which works with NYC Health Plus hospitals to provide housing along with therapy, meals, and addiction care. These programs not only offer shelter, but also help restore hope and dignity to individuals who have long been overlooked. These efforts aim to reduce emergency room visits and ease the burden on the streets. Housing production has also seen record growth, with 33,715 affordable units created in 2025, the third year in a row of breaking records. This includes 1,962 supportive homes for vulnerable populations. And through the Housing Connect lottery, more than 10,000 households were linked to stable housing. Since 2022, nearly 12,500 families have moved into permanent homes, providing lasting stability for over 26,000 people. Nonprofits like the Coalition for the Homeless continue to play a vital role. In 2024, they helped over 17,000 long-term cases, a 32% increase from the previous year. Their youth programs, backpack drives, and summer camps offer support where government resources fall short, often filling critical gaps in care and guidance for those most at risk. While these steps are encouraging, much more is needed. A Housing First initiative could deliver 100,000 affordable units over 5 years, and mobile mental health teams could intervene before crises escalate. Partnerships with corporations could help reintegrate those excluded from the workforce, while community volunteers and local organizations remain key to sustaining progress. With sustained focus and federal support, these combined actions could break the cycle of homelessness, turning recovery into lasting renewal for New York and offering a model for cities across the nation. For decades, I've walked New York streets, seeing it transform from a city full of promise into one burdened by inequality. At 72, I've witnessed America's dreams rise and fall as policies unraveled the safety nets my parents' generation built, leaving the most vulnerable behind. Homelessness isn't just a policy issue. It's a quiet reminder that freedom means little when so many have nothing. In the city where I raised my children, I've shared sandwiches with veterans whose eyes hold untold stories and watched mothers whose strength rivals the skyline itself. These encounters stay with me far longer than any headline ever could. Now, in my later years, I feel a call to stewardship rather than despair. We have the resources and the knowledge, but what we lack is the will. The GI Bill lifted a generation. Why can't we invest in people like that again? Fentanyl's deadly toll grows because we treat symptoms, not the root problem. From my Brooklyn porch, I see hope in small acts, volunteers, advocates, and those fighting for change. My time may be limited, but the torch now passes to you. Look into the eyes of those on the streets. They are our neighbors, and in helping them, we find our own salvation. In 2025, New York's homelessness reflects our collective choices, shaped by the priorities we set in budgets and ballots. The scars run deep, from overcrowded shelters to the deadly grip of fentanyl, but so does our capacity for change. We can choose equity, expand access to housing, and bring care into every corner of the city. We can transform New York from a shining metropolis into a compassionate one, where no one sleeps under the stars, but beneath secure roofs, with dignity restored. The light is there. The question is, will we step forward to meet it?